Welcome to the Hashknife. Today we're going to evaluate a couple of young stallion prospects. Last summer we sold a stallion that we really, at the end of his use for eligibility to some of our mares. So we sold him, and the summer before, I'd been looking for a couple of prospects. Whether it was a proven stallion that was already breeding would have been okay, and open to young stallions, or actually looking for a 2-year-old or even a yearling. And these guys were both a couple of colts still on their mothers. So I went and looked at them, looked at one in particular, and the other one was there. And so I thought, well, you know what the heck, I'm gonna take a look at both. We'll buy them both and then evaluate at that point, because it's very, very difficult sometimes to tell how they're going to mature. You can look at the mother, you can look at the sire, and then get kind of an idea, but that's not always scientific by any means. So what I'm going to do today, since they are 18 months old, is kind of go through our evaluation process and how we would pick a stallion prospect, what we're going to do, and which one are going to most likely keep, and then the one which will be gelded and then I'll train and have for sale. So this guy here is a month younger than him, so there's a little bit of difference in the two, but we'll go through those. So bear with us and we'll do this part by part. Okay, we're going to start with the feet. One of the most important things, it's all important, but feet are extremely important. I'm not drawn to this guy's white lower leg, and it's actually not a stocking, it's a sock. It goes up midway up the cannon bone. I'm not wild about it, because a lot of times what comes with a sock or stocking is a white hoof. And you can tell on this guy, on the very, very bottom, he's got some white, but it's also very pinkish inside. So it's not a white hoof. There's normally a softer hoof than a black hoof. It almost always is. And when it's got a pink hue to that, it's got some pliability to it, so it doesn't just break out. And it's just on the very end. So that, and it being on his hind feet, I'm not overly worried about that. Most of his, 60% of his weight is going to be on these front feet, and that's what's important. He's got 2 black feet. These horses right now look horrible because it's winter time and it's just a warm day, but you can see they're matted up. You got to kind of look past some of that stuff. They've been laying in the snow and the mud. They're not trimmed. I want to see how their feet grow out and kind of evaluate them from there. But those hind feet are fine. That's the weakest portion of this horse that I can see right now. This other horse over here, this gelding, you'll see all 4 of his feet are nice, solid black, and very good feet. They both got great feet, but this guy is just a little bit diminished because of that. It's not bad. I'm not going to condemn him for that, because he's got mostly black feet and look really good. Because these are gaited horses, Tennessee walkers, we pay particular attention to how their muscular and skeletal structure is and how it applies to their overall movement. That'll make a big consideration, or is a big consideration, on how they're going to move and how you can predict whether they reach with their front end, whether they pick their hind end up and reach forward, or sweeping motion forward and keep it low. So what we're looking for is having him stand relatively straight up and down, and find the point of his scapula, the top of his shoulder. And then of course this point here is the point of the shoulder where the humerus attaches to the scapula. Then we've got back down here, right here is the back of the humerus. So it's basically this part of the skeleton. And you can see how that's a really long, sweeping area there. If you pull that up, that's about, if you were to lay that up there, that's well past halfway to the top of this scapula. So he's going to have a really long, and because this comes back and slopes low, he's got a long lever there that he's going to be able to reach forward with. If it was long and back and more flat, he would still reach, but he would reach and only put down so far. So this guy's going to have a really long reach on the front end. We like that. We're looking for the shoulder slope, the muscling in the skeleton, so that he can reach forward as well with the top of his shoulder. Now with the hind, we're looking for the same thing here. We're looking for from the top of the withers to the top of the pelvis where it joins right there. I want a back that's fairly short. I like a short backed horse so that it is not got a lot of pressure and trying to hold up a lot of weight with a really long lever there. It's short, it's compact, and it'll really be able to take a lot of weight and hold a lot of work. Now, from the top of that back to where his joint of his hip is, you can see that that is a long distance here, and further back than the normal. On most non-gated horses, that point will be almost dead over the top of his hip, point of his hip. The other thing we're looking at is where this hind end of this reaches, and then from there down to his stifle joint. And look at that really nice slope here, and then we've got a really nice long distance here. And then when you look from here, from his hock down to the ground and up to here, this is a fairly long lever here compared to that. So most likely he's going to reach and step forward, have a lot of reach with his hind end, with a lot of reach on the front, and which should provide a really efficient step and really smooth, because he's not going to pick his body up to move. He's just going to sweep and reach and be able to be somewhat elegant in that manner. Most all of them are a little narrower on the front end. That's fine. You want that on your walking horses. I'm also looking at the bottom of his legs. He's got a nice long pastern on the front and the back. That's this distance here. You want a nice long pastern so that this also supports a good hoof, but you want to be careful that this does not set down too far. If this normally, as he was standing, set way down, then he may have a suspensory ligament issues. And there are some genetic anomalies in some gated horses that have that. All horses can have it, but some breeds and some particular lines can be more prone to it, like our Peruvian Pasos. The Pasofino breeds are very prone to that, so you want to look at that as well. If I can pull him around, step to his hind end, and I'm going to look at how thick he is, how he kind of rounds down. He's not flat backed on his hind end, and look at the growth he's going to have here. This distance here, that's called a gaskin. If he stands up straight, we'll get into, there we go, there we go. Look at how much flare is in here. He's going to be able to have a lot of muscle. He's going to be able to pack a lot of muscle on the outside. He's fairly flat right now, but he will be able to open that up and put some muscle on there and have a lot of power on that hind end. His legs, if he backs up, he's ever so much cow-hocked, meaning his toes are sticking out a little bit away. And if I back him up a little bit and maybe straighten him up a little, that might help. He might straighten him out just a bit. There we go. We can put some weight on that hind end. There we go. And you can still see he's just ever so much cow-hocked. I want that in our walking horses. We don't want that. We want that foot to be able to reach and move and articulate. That's a good thing in the walking horse. And of course, see a little bit better how straight he stands. Those legs are nice and straight. He's not pulled in on the hocks. They're nice and straight up and down until he gets to the bottom of the where the pastern meets the ankle, and then starts to flare out a little bit. So all in all, nice little pony. Really well packaged. I'm really impressed with his length of back. And then for us, the absolute most important thing to look at is this face. He's got a pretty head. Aesthetics is there. But what I'm looking at is, look at this eye. Really soft, kind look about him. He's nice and calm. He's got look at his eye space is very, very wide. When I stretch my fingers out, he goes from the edge here to here. He's got a lot of brain space in here. There's a great big block up here. There's a lot of brain space. He's got a short face. He's not got an ugly rounded head. He's got good teeth, good mouth on him. He's got good. I just stuck something in your mouth the other day, didn't I? There, look at that. Nice and even. That bite is very, very close. Got a very, very slight overbite, but not very much at all. So all in all, a really good look about this horse. I'll back him up here and we'll get a look at his front end. Same thing with his feet, getting him to stand up straight. Look at his legs, and his feet are ugly right now because we haven't trimmed them. I've just let them grow out. But you can see how nice and straight those legs are. They are narrow. He's 18 months old, but look how narrow the shoulders are. He will thicken up and really match into the rest of his body. But this mind is so important. That's the one thing we breed for, is that disposition, the mind. What is it actually going to tell this horse to do? How calm is he? How well does he accept things? Is he a horse that's kind of mean or kind of nasty? And he's not. This is a sweet, really sweet dispositioned horse. And so that's primary. Secondary is his conformation. And then after that is color. And again, we really don't care much about color. It doesn't matter. We're not breeding for color, because you can ride the color, but if you can't control the color, it doesn't do you any good. All right, we've got him kind of taken care of, so then we'll move on to this other horse in a minute. Okay, we've already covered the feet with him. Good solid black, nice large feet, able to carry a lot of weight. One of the first things you'll notice is when you look at the top of the scapula, which is right here, compared to, see, he's a little bit more, got a little bit more movement to him. Get him to stand straight up, kind of draw. There we go. Look how much more steep this angle is compared to the other one. The other one laid back a little bit more, a couple of degrees. So when you compare that, and then his elbow right here, very similar on the elbow, where this, or the humerus, not the elbow, from the elbow to the point of the shoulder. This is very much the same slope, very similar, and the length is very similar. So it's up here above halfway, which is great. He just doesn't have quite the slope of the shoulder from the top of the scapula to the point of the shoulder that the other guy does. So he's not going to have quite as much reach, not as much as this guy will here. Now, one thing you'll notice, he's a month older, but he's a little taller, he's a little bigger overall. He's got great bone. Both of them have really good, thick, heavy bone. He's got a little blemish here on his hip, and I think they've been playing and sparring and biting and pawing, and well, I know they have. I've been watching them do it, so kind of disregard that, and that's something you look past. So the movement on this front end is going to be very similar, only he'll pick his leg up a little bit on the front and reach, and he can't reach quite as far because he doesn't have quite that slope that the other guy's going to have. Now from the top of the withers, again to the top here of his hind end, and let's see if I can get him to stand up a little bit, get him to kind of break at the hip, or the there we go, I can see where it moves. Okay, right here is where his pelvis meets his spine. Last rib is in here, and the point of the hip is right here. Very similar. He's got a little bit longer back overall though. You can see that's, the other horse is about this long. He's about this long. That's going to be a significant difference, and you kind of see it in his overall body length and body conformation that's there. Now you look here, from here to the back of his pelvis, and then draw that, and then to this stifle joint. Kind of a long, yeah, but he's got, again, a narrow angle here. The other horse had a very similar angle there. But you notice how his back doesn't round, it's a little bit flatter on the back. Not much, but a little bit. And then this distance from, a couple horses playing over there, this distance from his hock to the ground and up to the stifle, and notice how that is up a little higher off the ground. This distance from here on the other horse was a little bit lower. So this horse is probably going to pick himself up and set that foot down instead of more of a sweeping motion. He may end up being more towards the diagonal in gait, meaning he'll be a little more trotty, but he'll certainly be a little bit more rough in his movement as well. All right, they both have great bone, great depth and heaviness of, especially these lower bones, these cannon bones are really nice, and the maturity is really showing on these little stud colts. You'll see, get him to pull over here a little bit. around. He's got quite a wide flare to his hind end. The width of that gaskin is really noticeable. He's got and he has been that way since day one. He's got a little heavier hind end than the other one. Here we go. And the other one's really starting to bloom here the last couple of months. Ooh, good boy. Easy. Boy. And you can see this flare here at distance, and see he's a little bit, he wants to paw, he wants to move. Notice how he's not quiet like the other horse is. And we can train that out of him, but that's just his natural thought process and movement. Now, if you look at his hind end, look at those legs. We'll get onto him straight here. Those legs are, and he's kind of off a little bit, but they're very similar straight up and down. There we go. And slightly cowhocked, meaning his heels are in and his toes are pointed out, which is just fine. That's what we want in our horses. And of course, when you look from the side, they both stand, they don't undersling. This bone on both of them stand straight up and down. Get him to stand. There we go, stand still. Notice that cannon bone, which is from the hock. Now look how nice and straight that is. It sits in ever so much, just a little bit. This guy, similarly, we didn't cover that, but we will here now. Move him off, and look how nice and calm he is. Really like that. Get him to stand up a little bit, just kind of move him a little. He's going to push against me. There we go. Come on, big boy. There we go. And same thing. Look how those legs are almost straight up and down, but just kind of come in, and at this angle, you can see it really pretty well. So, good comparison. A lot of similarities on these horses, and a lot of differences. Nice and quiet. And then we come to our primary thing we want to talk about, and that's this mind. And remember, I measured the eye space, or the brain space on this horse, or on the last one, and I can take from the end of my finger to my thumb, and look how much further they were just even on the other horse. On this one, from eyelash to eyelash, this one only comes to about there. That's a significant difference. A lot narrower horse on a bigger, or a lot narrower space on a bigger horse, and his mind kind of shows it. He's a little bit more, got a little bit more movement, a little bit more skittish, and of course we can work on that, train that out. We're going to look at the mouth here, see if we can see that. Got great teeth, almost identical to the other one. Little, ever so much of an overbite, maybe not even a 1/16 of an inch of overbite. So they both have got great mouths, great teeth. I'm looking for the depth of the mouth here. Nice deep mouth, but not quite as deep as this guy. Look how much deeper this mouth is here. And he's got his lower lip in, but from here to here, that's a nice deep mouth to take a bit. Really like that. So either horse is really a good stallion prospect, to be quite honest. But when you're trying to pass on some genetics in your horses, you want to get the best you can. And I can take any horse, doesn't matter what it is, and you can nitpick bad things about them. You can make good things seem even better. But really, ultimately, look at his mind. Look at how nice and quiet he is. Look how he's not. He's always got to be doing something. Doesn't mean he's always smart and that he's curious. He's just always got to be doing something. And if I moved a little faster on him, he'll just back right off. And then watch, see, there we go, good. It's not bad. Yeah, again, either one of them would be a good prospect, but I'm leaning with this guy. See, he's bored here too. But if I walk up to him, there, just good boy. Good boy. So there it is. It's really hard to do this. It is gut-wrenching for me, really, because you could have a fantastic animal here, a fantastic animal here, and you do all of the things that you're going to do. I want to, and in the training, and I could train them both before I gild one of them, but we're not able to do that with our facilities. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have a horse that I'm going to gild that's going to be real studdy or act like a stud, real nippy and a knothead around mares, real dominant. So one of them's got to be taken care of, and then most likely we're not going to do it until in the spring, but most likely this guy's going to be our stallion prospect. Just like his overall shorter body, better mind, good feet. I like this guy too, but I'm not wild about how his personality is. And his eye, you look at it, again, he's got a pretty soft eye, but not quite like the other one. Notice how this is not, you can just see it in his eye, how he's a little bit more, I don't know, yeah. You can, there we go, love on him a little bit and soften him up. Look at how that eye softens up. That guy's like that naturally. This guy is, you have to get there with him, and he'll make a great mount, but I just don't think he'll be what we want for the stud prospect. All right, I hope that's enlightened you a little bit. Of course, I can be completely wrong and gild him, and he would have been the better prospect. That's the chances we take, and it's just a matter of years of observation, what we're looking for in our horses, to pass on with the dam, and hopefully produce some colts that are really calm and nice for people and have a great gait, and that's what it's about. All right, you guys, we'll talk to Suzanne here now and get her thinking cap on and ask some questions.